Good evening, welcome to Face to Face, our weekly show devoted to events which matter most to Europe, Ukraine and Poland. I'm your host Adam Jasa. This week was called Europe's Hour, as leaders from the European Union and the United Kingdom responded to what appeared to be a US abandonment of Ukraine and alignment with Russia. My guest to discuss this is Michał Broniatowski, Editor-in-Chief of TVP World. Michał, welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Trump's envoy to Ukraine, retired General Keith Kellogg, said this week that, quote, Ukraine brought it upon itself, unquote, commenting the fact that the United States stopped arms deliveries to Ukraine and deprived its troops of vital intelligence information. So the question is, has the Trump administration crossed the Rubicon, and are we still to believe that this is just sophisticated deal-making?
If deal-making, it is very unsophisticated. Is a bully or group of bullies, as we witnessed in the Oval Office the other day. But the problem is that it's not only a middle level official, Mr. Kellogg, but also the president says sort of outrageous things, like if they don't pay. It is about Europe, but also outrageous. But he said about Ukrainians, I have to know that they want to settle. I don't know that they want to settle. If they don't want to settle, we are out of there because we want them to settle. It's and even more outrageous. Sorry to quote such things, but I'm afraid it's the strongest person in the world is saying that from his desk in the Oval Office, and he said about Putin, I believe him, and added, quoting again, I think we are doing very well with Russia. And right now, they are bombing the hell out of Ukraine.
Yes, it's not a very presidential language.
I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if you noticed that too, but it also seems they keep contradicting themselves. One day they say one thing, the other day they say another thing. So, for example, today we had this in our news program that, President Trump today said, he made a full circle. He said he threatened Russia with sanctions again. He did that 2 weeks ago. Then he said he wants to lift sanctions on Russia, and now he's saying sanctions back. He imposes tariffs on Canada and Mexico. The next day he lifts them. Right? The markets are, jumpy. The Europeans are jumpy. Everyone's is jumpy.
And American producers don't know what to read
knows.
into this.
And at the end, what has he achieved?
He achieved a complete mess. I don't know what is he pressing still Ukraine about, because President Zelensky already sent a message to him, saying public message, and also in a letter to him, in which he said that he is ready he said, I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership.
Yeah.
So, of course, it is not an apology which was demanded by Americans, but at least very, very far-reaching declaration of allegiance or whatever. And
people are beginning to feel like it's even hard to comment some of these statements from Mr. Trump. When he said these things about Russia today, and he threatened sanctions, and he said, they didn't stop bombing. One sarcastic comment I found was, it turns out that if you pull the rug from under one side in a war, the other side gets a big morale boost and ups its attacks. What a surprise.
It's we can go on like that, complain about sort of derangement of inhabitants of the White House, but but the results of that are quite threatening
and profound.
And profound, yes. for the last 3 years, we were saying that Putin failed to achieve any of his main goals in this war. He wanted
to capture Kiev. He wanted
to
change the government.
Plus, he wanted to disintegrate NATO and the European Union. But it's already, we were saying that he failed, but now we are no longer sure.
And suddenly Mr. Trump throws him a line.
After 3 years of geopolitical fails, Moscow suddenly gets an upper hand. It's a trusted partner for the United States, which are flattering him for reasons which are not very clear.
Well, I'm glad you're mentioning this flattery, because the sort of conventional wisdom before the Trump administration took power was that there's a very simple formula of dealing with Donald Trump. You flatter him, you spend more on defense, as he requested, and you buy American arms, right? And now what we're witnessing is actually the other way around. Yes, Europeans are spending more on defense, but we're hearing more and more that some of the European allies are actually worried about buying American arms because they see what happened in Ukraine. Ukraine contracted arms from America, and then by a decision authorized by Congress, and suddenly somebody decides, somebody like Elon Musk, for example, says, no, we won't be sending it. So, it's serious. This is not just talk.
And he's forgetting about what is important in the global politics, because what he does is really only strengthening the second biggest economic power in the world, China.
Yes, China is probably, I don't know if they like popcorn there, but they're probably watching it.
Yes, but they are the only winners here, not Europe, not Germany, not anybody are winning here. Europe is cracking.
Is it? Well, I think so far it seems that Mr. Trump's biggest achievement so far is that he managed to scare European allies enough for them to finally make some concrete decisions.
If you look at these events, as you said, Week of Europe, it also weak Europe. Sorry.
Oh, you're so pessimistic, Michał.
I'm not pessimistic. I'm watching of what happened. A mouthful of hope, support, and hugs in front of cameras with Mr. Zelensky, President Zelensky, when he entered the meeting of the European Council. But in the end, we still have only promises, different promises than we used to hear, which may be strong indication of Europe taking a new direction and deciding also on something which is against this notion of the United European Union, because they, in the end, we saw the meeting in Paris, first in London, in which non-members of
Well, exactly. This is the whole point. At the end of the day, the French president delivered a very powerful speech. I agree, but he made a very specific proposal to extend the French nuclear umbrella over Europe. Germany wants that. Today we heard from the Polish Prime Minister he's also interested. So these are not just these are still words. But these are very significant moments in Europe's history.
I think we are witnessing so far the change of language, which is,
if people are beginning to plan...
The words may change into flesh, but not necessarily.
Okay. Well, but you could say the same about Mr. Trump. That so far we just hear a lot of language. Okay, fair enough, he did stop.
No, it's not only language, sorry.
Okay.
This guy stop deliveries of absolutely indispensable arms for Ukraine. The problem is here, well, perhaps this is not going to harm Ukraine immediately because they have some stocks, and it may take about 2 months. So by the summer we may see if it stays until then. Ukrainians will start to have problems with missiles.
But Ukraine,
sorry,
we're talking about Europe, not just Ukraine. And when you listen to some of the statements we heard in the last few days, just today in Poland, the Polish Prime Minister comes out and says, we will train all adults in the country to be ready for war. We will have landmines, which we were considering banning because the circumstances are difficult and...
because the potential enemy uses them freely.
Exactly. And then he says, we're talking to the French about the nuclear umbrella. This is an earthquake.
This is an earthquake, and it's good that Poland is at the head of this earthquake. It's even a moving force in it. Poland, among other things, today in the Parliament, Mr. Tusk said, while saying that we need to stand up to Russia, he said, I'm quoting here, the paradox is that 500 million Europeans are begging 300 million Americans to protect them against 150 million Russians who spent 3 years being unable to win over 50 million Ukrainians.
Smaller country.
It's eye-opening,
yes.
Such a thing. But at the same...
again, this, if I may, because I will sort of defend... I know it's not going to be very successful, but I'll try to defend the fact that we're witnessing major change here. And of course, this is the big moment for the French, who for 50 years were talking about strategic autonomy of Europe in different shapes and forms. They stepped out of NATO command at some stage, and and even a year ago when the French were talking about strategic autonomy, everybody was saying, oh, here they go again, we don't want to decouple from the United States. Today everybody says, why not? Maybe it makes sense.
Are you saying that the President de Gaulle envisaged...
he's cheering.
envisaged the era of Mr. Trump in the US? No.
The biggest problem I have with de Gaulle was that he insisted the United Kingdom should not be part of Europe.
Yes.
And we see even from this situation that we need the UK, and the presence of the UK Prime Minister in all these meetings, and also the fact that he played host to some of these meetings, means, again, another Trump-made miracle, which is bringing the UK closer with Europe again.
Yes, but when we talk about political acts of Mr. Trump, finally I got my word to say that.
Oh, I apologize.
What he did, he stopped providing Ukraine with intelligence gathered mainly by satellites.
And then he was surprised that the Russians are bombing, right? It's just unbelievable.
Russians were not using cruise missiles and ballistic missiles for the last months. There were only drones. The Iranian Shaheeds. And, half a day after the cut of the support, vital support for Ukraine, they started attacking with missiles because, Ukrainians are blind. They cannot defend against it. It's, I think it amounts to a treason, I'd say. It's as if taking away a scope from a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
They're blind and deaf on the in the war in which
they're the victim.
Yeah, in which the electronic edge is the key element of victory.
Right. But again, I will insist that major change in Europe is happening.
Of course.
Hell froze. Germany wants to get rid of its debt limit and spend massively on defense. They want to change the constitution to do that. That's not convincing to you?
they told the world and their own society 3 years ago that here we have a Zeitenwende, which
major change,
yes,
change of direction.
The time of change, whatever, or big words, full mouth, but in fact, Germany was the main laggard in speeding up military support for Ukraine.
But later on, they provided the bulk of it.
Yes, but a real Zeitenwende is happening now. We heard from both the outgoing Chancellor Scholz and incoming Chancellor Merz that Germany is planning to change its constitution in order to support, to better support Ukraine and to make Europe Germany and Europe for war.
Yeah.
Which means if finally...
Yes, and some German newspapers are speculating that we're talking about €1 trillion, which is a gigantic
figures
amount.
are huge. It's 800 billion here, there 1 trillion. It's over a decade, so...
But you see, this is the whole point. I don't think we yet grasped this, that up to now people were talking about, oh, it will cost money. Oh, the problem is with money. Suddenly money is no problem. Now is delivery. But if you look at the share prices of European arms producers, they're all gone up like 40%, 17%, 20%. Investors realize what's happening.
Yes, well, luckily politicians also realized.
Well, here you go.
They were slapped on their faces.
That's why politics is always more important than the financial markets.
Yes, the foreign minister of the European Union, Kaja Kallas, goes to Washington, and her counterpart in Washington says, "Oh, I'm sorry, my calendar is not fit. You don't fit into it." When you get such reception, you wake up. Well, you don't have to wake up Kaja Kallas, but other Europeans.
So let's go back
to
this Germany. What's going to happen now? Because this is happening even before the new government is installed. That's quite unprecedented.
It has to happen because before the new government, because still there is, and before the new parliament sits, which takes place on the 25th of March. From that date on, with the big success of AfD, there will be no 2/3 majority to change constitution. If they want to do it, they have to do it before that date. And then now we have a timeline with next week already Bundestag is meeting, so in which
lower house of parliament,
in which CDU together with SPD and with Greens have about 20 votes above these 2/3 of parliament, lower house. To change constitution in order to allow the treasury to spend more than 0.35% of GDP on military.
For me this is fascinating because during the big financial crisis, Germany was so obsessed with fiscal and budgetary discipline that they nearly murdered the Eurozone, particularly Greece and some of these smaller countries that suffered enormously. And of course, then they changed course a little bit when it was too late. And suddenly this rule book that they applied for so many years consistently is just going out of the window.
Because we are living in the state of flying out of the window. All Europe, the first to fly is unluckily Ukraine, and I hope that we'll all land in a soft place. And
thank you, Michał. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. This was Face to Face. See you next week.